You ever wonder why some companies just take off? I'm not talking about the flashy startups that are born great, but the regular, everyday, kind of good companies that somehow become absolutely extraordinary. Well, today we're going to dive into Jim Collins's landmark book, Good to Great.
And this is the big idea that kicks the whole thing off. See, it's pretty easy to settle for good. It's comfortable. But Collins makes this powerful argument that being merely good is the very thing that stops most organizations from ever becoming great. It's a total trap.
So that's the big question, right? And it launched this absolutely massive 5-year research project. The whole point wasn't to look at companies that were always amazing, but to find the ones that started out as just okay, and then somehow made the leap. They wanted to figure out what systematically separated them from all the rest. And to find that answer, the team started with a huge pool of companies, 1,435 firms from the Fortune 500. They dug through just mountains of data, and their criteria were incredibly strict. And in the end, only 11 companies made the cut. Just 11. That's it.
And what those 11 companies did? It was just staggering. For 15 years after they made their leap, they demolished the general stock market by an average of almost 7 times. To give you some perspective, that's more than double the performance of an absolute legend like General Electric during that same period.
So what was the secret sauce? Well, it turns out before they could figure out what did work, the researchers first had to bust some major myths about what we all think leads to success.
Okay, this is a big one. We all have this image, right? We're kind of programmed to think that to turn a company around, you need this high-profile, charismatic superstar CEO to ride in from the outside and save the day.
Yeah. Well, the data? It said a big, fat no. A celebrity CEO wasn't just unnecessary. The research actually found it was a bad sign. It was negatively correlated with making that sustained leap from good to great.
And it wasn't just the celebrity CEO thing. Turns out, a whole bunch of stuff we think matters just doesn't. The research found no clear link between making the leap and any of these things. Not how much you pay your execs, not having the latest tech, not even having some grand, super complex strategy. So if it wasn't any of this stuff, what on earth was it?
And this is where things get really interesting. The answer didn't start with a what or a how. It started with who. The entire framework that Collins discovered is built on this foundation of disciplined people. Every single one of the good to great companies had what Collins calls a level 5 leader when they made their transformation. And the key here is this wild, paradoxical mix of traits. These leaders were often quiet, reserved, even shy, but underneath they had this intense, almost fanatical professional will. They were completely driven to get results for the company, not for themselves.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have Darwin Smith of Kimberly-Clark, a humble guy, but he had this fierce resolve that led him to make these incredibly gutsy decisions. Then you've got Chainsaw Al Dunlap of Scott Paper, a guy who literally nicknamed himself Rambo and Pinstripes and took all the credit. Time and time again, greatness was built by the Darwin Smiths of the world.
This leads to the second huge idea about disciplined people. See, those level 5 leaders didn't start with some grand vision. They started by getting the right people. That old saying we all hear, people are your most important asset, turns out it's wrong. The right people are.
They followed this super simple, but really rigorous principle. Think of it like a bus. First, you focus relentlessly on getting the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. Then, you make sure the right people are in the right seats. And only then do you figure out where you're going to drive the thing. Because if you have the right people, they'll motivate themselves and you can handle whatever the world throws at you.
So you've got the right people on the bus? Now what? Well, the focus shifts. The research showed that these teams then engaged in disciplined thought, which then naturally led to disciplined action. And that becomes the engine that drives the whole transformation.
This is probably one of the most famous ideas from the book, the hedgehog concept. It's based on this old parable. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. Good to great companies found their one big thing by getting brutally honest about the intersection of 3 circles. First, what can we be the absolute best in the world at? Second, what drives our economic engine? And third, what are we deeply passionate about? They found that simple sweet spot and then just focused on it with relentless consistency.
Now, here's the thing. From the outside, it often looked like these companies just exploded overnight. Like there was this one big aha moment, some revolutionary event. But on the inside, it felt totally different.
Instead, the process was way more like pushing a giant, heavy flywheel. That first push, it barely moves. It's a huge struggle. But with consistent, disciplined effort, all in the same direction, turn after turn, the flywheel starts to build momentum. And it gets faster and faster until, wham, it hits a point of breakthrough and its own weight starts working for you.
Now, the companies that didn't make the leap, they were stuck in the total opposite of the flywheel. Collins calls it the doom loop. They would lurch in one direction, try some new program, get disappointing results, and then lurch in a completely new direction, always searching for that one miracle moment that never came. They never built up any momentum. This table just nails the difference. On one side, you have the flywheel. It's a cumulative process, building momentum to that sustained breakthrough. On the other side, the doom loop. It's all reactionary, lurching from one shiny new program to the next, never gaining any real traction. This even applied to big moves like acquisitions. The great companies used them to accelerate a flywheel that was already spinning, while the others used them to try and create momentum out of thin air.
So when you put all these pieces together, the level 5 leadership, getting the right people on the bus, the hedgehog concept, the flywheel, you get to this really powerful and honestly super empowering conclusion.
And this might be the most important takeaway from the whole book. The research showed that the good to great companies weren't in better industries. They didn't get luckier. They faced the exact same challenges as everyone else. The difference was the series of disciplined choices they made along the way. This whole framework, it's really a series of choices. The choice to put the company first, over your own ego. The choice to get the right people in the room before you decide where you're going. The choice to find that one simple, unifying concept. And the choice to have the patience to just keep pushing that flywheel day after day.
And that leaves us with this final, powerful question. Collins argues these ideas don't just apply to giant corporations. They can apply to a school, a nonprofit, a team, maybe even your own life. So the crucial point isn't just knowing the framework. It's about applying it. Because greatness, in the end, well, that's up to you.